first speaker up. Please help me in welcoming Greg David with Minuteman Press.
Thank you very much. A little bit of history, a little background. I've got my notes on here. I'm not texting or anything. It's pretty good deal. Minuteman Press, my wife and I, in April of 2012, decided to move to Statesboro area, and we found that opening a print shop was a good opportunity for us. My background was in direct mail. Her background was in banking, but she spent 10 years working with me in the direct mail business in Jacksonville. And we moved up to this area to become closer to family. We chose the Minuteman Press franchise because they'd been around almost 40 years. They had almost 1,000 shops worldwide and were recognized as the leader in print franchise. We liked the print business because it was very similar to a lot of the things we had done in the direct mail business. So a lot of the operations, the processes were similar. But on top of that, we found there was a need for a local print shop that was kind of a full service between the quick copy center and the large offset commercial print. So with that, we opened, in August of 2012. We started out, she and I, together with a graphic designer. We grew the business. We grew very well the first year. But after we got into the first year, we found that we needed to move further for staffing. We added a marketing person, which became a real challenge in trying to find a marketing person so that we could have more than one person on the street selling. That didn't go well for us. We ran into some issues with the graphic designers, the production people, and because of that, we reached the plateau and our sales started to drop in early 2014. Went through several staff changes, and at that point, I realized our biggest challenge was finding good staff because there's only so much that we could do ourselves, but we had to have people that we could train, that we could put out there to do the work with the marketing and also to do the production work, because it's very difficult to sell in the morning and print in the afternoon. That wasn't the type of business that we had planned to have. We wanted to be able to grow the business with consistent sales, be able to market to areas not only here in Statesboro, but as far away as the Savannah area. Because of the personnel issues, it created some financial issues. So this year, my wife had to take a job outside of the business, which left me in the business on my own. Which really brings me to the point of what I'm here to talk about today, and that's been the problem finding qualified people to work in our shop. We basically need people with graphics capabilities, a basic understanding of graphics, but not a full-scale graphic artist, but also people that are very take charge, independent. As I like to tell the people I've interviewed, people don't have to babysit. We've been through 6 people this year. People interview very well, but when it's time to rubber meets the road, it doesn't. Where I'm at right now is I have 2 part-time students, which are excellent employees, but those of you who work students know their schedules aren't very strong. So it leaves me with a lot of time that I have to spend in the shop, basically answering the phone, doing customer service. I'm not out on the street marketing the business, which is really where my strength is. I don't need to be in there running a press, doing the design. I need to be on the street selling, because that's where my strength is. So my issue is trying to find full-time people that have a basic knowledge but have a work ethic. And I guess that's what I'm kind of looking for direction. Let me tell you about what we've done, what we've tried so far. We have used Craigslist, we've used Indeed, we've used the Statesboro Herald, we've advertised at Georgia Southern's site, employment site as well. The people that we find, this is kind of how it comes in. Craigslist people are just people who need a job. They don't have a clue, they don't read your ad, they just send you a message. They have no idea what a graphic designer is or what printing is or anything else. Indeed, what we found there is we found people that believe it's a $25 or $30 an hour job. And this is a $10 to $15 an hour job, which in my research, working with one of the advantages of being a franchise, I can pick up the phone, talk to Minuteman people. We have a regional rep in the Atlanta market. The Atlanta market is 33 Minuteman presses, shops in that area. And when I told him I had people wanting $20, $25 an hour, he laughed. He says, I don't have shops doing that job in Atlanta paying $20, $25 an hour. Statesboro is not a $20, $25 an hour position. But with that, I'll say the one person that wanted $20, my comment to her was, prove it to me. Prove to me you're worth that. And they didn't want to prove that to me. I gave them a plan. This is how you can get to $20 an hour. But they wanted to come in, walk in the door, making that type of money. This is someone who's out of school about 4 years. It had never worked in a print shop. They had graphic design work, but no print shop work. So they weren't even the exact person I wanted. But I was willing to give them an opportunity to prove they had those capabilities to earn that money. Somebody asked me once, when I was speaking to a friend of mine about this, they go, well, would you pay $20 an hour? Yes, to the right person. To be really fair, yes, I would pay that person that I can do the money that they want, but they've got to prove it to me. So my question to y'all is, what are the avenues, what are suggestions, places I'm missing, I'm not looking, am I not asking the right questions of people to find a production person and a marketing person, people in my staff that can help me grow my business to the next level of what we need to be.
Would your graphic designer have to be part of your staff? I mean,
Yeah.
preferably for you, I mean, because you got like Upwork and places like that. If you have a set person that.
Yeah, I really need somebody, because basically that person's role is graphic design is probably about 30% of their job. It's going to be production, customer service, because a lot of my clients come in the door, and I've worked with some of y'all here, they come in and say, hey, so what I need that graphic artist to be right there. I do have sources, and I have used them, freelancers, online people to do work, but I've still got to have physical buy-in inside the shop. Somebody that can meet the public.
Jerry Blakely, happy veteran, thank you. For the graphic designer and all, I'm not sure how the printers and all that work, but your software for that, is it a certain software they have to know though, or is it the normal?
I'm using
I don't know what
Adobe Creative Cloud, which 95% of designers use. Matter of fact, when we first opened the shop, they had set us up, Minuteman set us up with Corel, and we found that designers didn't know Corel. They weren't taught that in school anymore, but Adobe is what they're taught. So yes, the software I've got, 90% of graphic art, probably 99% of them are going to walk in the door and be familiar with those products.
So, are you looking for someone with that experience already, or are you willing to train any person?
I'm willing to train somebody that's willing to learn. Yes, I mean, if they've got the right work ethic, if they understand that it's going to be hard work to learn this, and be willing to work through it, yes, we're willing to train, because one of the things that Minuteman gives us as a franchise is they have a field tech that will come in, spend several days with that person, give them all the basic training they would need, and of course they're always available by phone or internet or text or whatever. So there is that, even though we're a small business, we do have that. That's what I pay them for, basically.
So from my experience in sourcing and selection in the past, one of the great things that worked for me was to actually go out different places, restaurants, sit and watch people actually work, and then take the opportunity to, kind of talk with them. And sometimes you have to visit 2 or 3 times
Right.
when you're watching a particular person, but you can kind of identify how somebody operates where they're already working to determine if they're willing to, be a motivator or learn something different.
Right.
You just kind of feel them out like that.
That's it, work ethic and all.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Marco George, Covenant Security and Surveillance. Where in God we trust, all others we monitor. Having spent time as a corporate recruiter and working in the temporary staffing field, exactly what she's saying is what you're looking for is 2 different people. Knowing the nature and the mindset of graphic designers, most of them prefer to work as contractors, independent.
Right.
If you could find someone, like she says, that has that work ethic, someone that's looking to do something different, you may find an $8 an hour person working in a restaurant or in the service industry that has good work ethic, has the customer service piece, that may want to do something that's more career oriented, something they can grow. You can sell them on a dream of, hey, I can pay you $10 an hour if you're willing to learn, you start them there. I think you probably better serve there because, and if they're willing, I don't know if you need them to learn the Adobe part, but as far as the customer service, meet and greet people at the counter,
Right.
answering the phone, handling the production of the machines, and then contract the design stuff, that out, you can contract that out, I think you'd be better served, because somebody that's got the graphic design skills and have gone to school for that,
Right.
they don't wanna be at a counter making $10 an hour,
Sure.
greeting
Makes sense.
guests, or the personality of that type of person, most of the times, all they wanna do is be at their computer screen. Yeah, they don't wanna meet and greet customers, so you're talking about
Right.
two totally different
And that's an
personalities.
interesting point you brought, because I actually had that conversation with one of my designers, now one of the students.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing, he said, you really need a full-time customer service production person.
Yeah.
And then you can always have a part-time graphics person. which
Exactly.
is kind of where we're at
Two
right now.
separate, listen to what you said, that's two separate, persons there. You can find a full-time person at $10 to $15 an hour, you can find a customer service rep that's gonna greet the customers, do, and learn the production side, when they're not back running machines,
Right.
that can come up if somebody walks in, that'll free you up to be out in the street selling.
Brooks Adams at the Avery Center. In years, when you say that you've had student employees before, I'm sure everyone knows the pluses and minuses of student employees. Have you ever considered working with Georgia Southern in terms of developing an internship for your position?
I just started thinking about that this year, but what I found out, just learned, is the department, the program that these guys are coming out of, which is the graphic production management, they're eliminating that program this year. That degree is going away. So about the time I learned what was available, because, I talked to some people at Southern, and they put me in touch with, job positions, and we had a couple of interns, and I've had some phenomenal interns, and I've had some interns that didn't stay long, but, still one of the issues, I'm trying to develop long-term people. And I'll give you an example of something through the student. I found a student, a young lady who graduated in December. She went to work for me during the summer. She was perfect. She was a graphic print management major. What her degree was, which is further than but she was excellent. She had great production skills, great customer service skills. Her design skills were average, which was fine, because in our shop, we're not doing huge designs. We're doing business cards, we're doing simple flyers. If I have something really complicated or something, then we would send that out. But she's moved to grad school. She went to, it was in Tennessee, as a matter of fact, Chattanooga is where she went. So that type of person really was the perfect individual in terms of what her degree was. But there was only 30 people in that program, and now the program's being eliminated. So even getting interns out of that program, and the two young people I have right now, the young lady and the gentleman, are both in that program. One is a senior, but the other one's a sophomore. She's not sure what she's going to do after May, whether she's going to stay or move to Clemson, which is the only place in the South that offers that program. So,
You say you want to develop someone long-term. I guess my question is, if you're dealing with students who are not from this area, you take the risk of them going back home, or
Right.
When they're done with school, or school not working out and them going back home, if that $10 or $15 is not enough to sustain them and they don't see a long-term career. Have you thought about the idea of somewhat training your replacement or training a future partner, this being a franchise, someone that you can grow, train, develop, and maybe help them launch their own Minuteman?
And our long-term plan is to have a shop in the pool area,
Okay.
and possibly another one in Savannah. So yes, that is a long-term plan. It is something that I had a person with me one time. We talked about developing that person, and their interest just changed. They decided it wasn't something they wanted to stick with. But yes, the opportunity would be there.
And are you discussing that in the interview process, though, is my question?
I'm not, because I want to see what their work ethic is first, because I don't want them just to get involved because they're going to help me start a business. Let's see what they're made of first. I've found from my experience, if you cast too far out of picture, they focus too far out and they're not focused on the short term. That's been an issue with a couple of people. Is they're more worried about 4 or 5 years down the road, and instead of really working, because if you work right now, if you can build a business right now, it'll grow into
Today matters.
itself. Yeah, you still got to crawl before we can run the marathon, and I don't want them thinking about that marathon. I want to think about walking and running, and then get there. John?
Jonathan Chambers with Citrus Solution Carpet Cleaning. I kind of echoing back off of what Marco was saying about the graphic designer not always necessarily being somebody who's tuned in with customer service, not always. And trying to marry those people into one is probably rare. But then also just the hours. I mean, it sounds like the office marketing friendly face person is probably more of a there when the shop's open, there when the shop closes 5 days a week. But could the graphic designer person be a little bit more flexible? The reason I'm asking that is my wife and I know other moms in town who either stay at home or work part-time jobs to bring in extra cash. And they, take their kids wherever when they're doing that. How flexible are the hours of this in-house graphic designer? Is it something they could work some part-time in the shop and then some at home? Or, have you tried that?
Absolutely. We haven't really tried that as the role of the job, but hours are pretty flexible. Yeah, I do need coverage from 9 to 5, 10 to 4, but something pretty much full-time. And I have been trying to get away from the students, as you mentioned, because of that, because I really need, I use the term a grown-up, someone that's graduated, and that's looking for a full-time job. And and we talk about students who, the thought is it's somebody young. It doesn't have to be somebody young. It could be somebody looking for a second career, somebody who's sold cars for 20 years and wants to sell something else. It doesn't have to be somebody that's come right out of school with a degree in graphics or print or something of that nature. It can be a part-time, the graphics person can be part-time, but the customer service production person need to be somebody kind of hands-on. There's a lot of training that would go on with the production and knowing how to set a job up. You wouldn't have to design it, but you have to know how to set it up on the computer, print it, set it to the digital press, be able to check it, be able to do the binding, which would be the cutting, however it has to be handled, because a lot of things we print on a large sheet, so the sheet's cut down. If you your business cards, you print 25 business cards on a sheet. So having that knowledge of how to do that, how to lay it out correctly, and those are things that can be taught, and it's stuff that they'll learn over and over, something you'll do over and over again. But it's having that willingness to, want to learn this skill and be proficient. Because I've had people that, can cut a box of business cards and they look like they're cut by a computer. And I have another people who cut a box of business cards that looks like my 9-year-old cut. So it has to, they have to have that, be able to train, that quality. Quality is so important. But yes.
Well, one practical way to market to somebody like that, and I'm just thinking out of my context, is to hit up some groups on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not saying that that's the answer, but there's a lot of mom groups, there's a lot of local mom groups that you can connect to. You're probably not a member of, but asking your wife or getting that information and finding out the top groups to join and just put out a post.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
Bob Chambers, Citrus Solution. Have you looked at Ogeechee Tech? Do they have any kind of a program like that, or are there any other vocational schools around the area that might have something like that could feed in graduates that aren't, a 4-year college graduate looking for a $50,000 a year job?
I know Ogeechee doesn't offer any type of a graphics or anything of that nature. That's not to say that, but I have not reached out to them.
But do they have, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Jump ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna, with the Geechee Tech, it was a great point, because you're probably gonna have more of your local students going to school there. Do they have any type of customer service or sales type program there that might be a certificate program that someone with that background can feed into? Because again, the graphic design piece, I've gotten that out of my mind. You need coverage at the counter. The graphic design is something you can get filled in on a contract basis if need be.
Right.
You're looking, it sounds like your primary need is having that presence in there for
Customer service, production person. Yeah.
That's a different person than the graphic designer. I've cut those two apart. So going back to what he's saying about the Geechee Tech, maybe they have
I haven't
customer service
reached out
or
to
some type of
Geechee Tech, so that's a great
sales.
point.
We've got an entrepreneurial club on campus, and one of their projects this year, it's Enactus, and one of their projects is they received a little grant money from Walmart Women's Empowerment to connect women with jobs in the community. So they've already started forming partnerships with different groups that might be something. So other mission groups that you might not have considered, you know, if people aren't just coming in off the street and filling out applications,
Right.
that could be another way to connect and find the right person for that position.
Okay, that's great. I get some information from on that, that'd be great.
Brian Reese, Party Harbor Inflatables. My recommendation, I guess, would be is if you find this next person that's right, is just fork over the money so you're not keep spinning in the same place for the next year trying to keep someone at a certain rate, you know?
Right.
If your business can sustain that, I guess, you know?
Sure.
Because I think what you'll find is, you know, a lot of kids, they are looking to get out of town and make their mark in the world and stuff. But it would make them it'd be a lot more difficult to leave a $20 to $25 an hour job than it would be a $10 an hour job. And they would get, definitely, their parents would be like, oh, you'd be stupid for moving, you know?
Well, there seems to
Just
be-
my 2 cents, if you find that right person, keep them.
Regina?
Regina Hamel, Life's Choice Realty. I guess my question, because I hear a lot of great ideas, I know personally we've failed a lot, we've succeeded in some places. We've never found anyone good on the internet. Just as a general rule, that's where we are right now.
Right.
What we've shifted to is we recruit our team members the same way we recruit the clients that we want, which is we go to our friends, our colleagues, the other people in our industry who kind of know, first you have to have a clear idea of what you want, which I think you're kind of developing and redeveloping standing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's the biggest resource that I have, is to go around to people who've walked in my office and know how crazy it can be. And if you can't handle that, then I can't train that.
Right.
So some of those things, I think, watching someone, I can't tell you the number of people I talk to in a restaurant and explain to them they have exactly what I want.
Jerry?
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing, because, you know, I've done, not to the scale you do, designing stuff like that, but designing takes a lot of time. And one thing as a customer too, when I go somewhere and need something done, that designer also has to be that person you can sit down with, so they do have to have that. And it takes away, if you had them at the front desk also doing all the other stuff, that's difficult. But they need to be able to take that person right away and say, hey, I need a pamphlet done. Well, that designer needs the ones to sit down with. And so they can go through it so they're on the same page instead of a middle person on that.
Right.
So, and I think you're in a unique position because most of the time businesses are looking for that person like you who's out there in the field getting the work. That's the hard ones to find, it seems like. So this is different for me to hear you're having a hard time finding a designer in a way, because that's more like, cool, I don't have to go out there and sell myself, you know,
Right.
and what you're doing a great job with, and you enjoy that. That's the main thing. So I just think that designer, you do want in-house that someone can sit down with and go through what they want done, not contracting out, because then that's hard to get with that person. Now, maybe that designer then they can take that stuff home and work on the computer with it too, but I think you need to keep it in-house, my opinion.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.